1587. Over 100 settlers vanished without a trace. No bodies, no signs of a struggle, just one chilling clue carved into a weathered post: kroh-uh-TOH-uhn. This is the story of the Lost Colony of Roanoke, one of history's most enduring mysteries. A tale of ambition, hardship, and disappearance that still baffles historians to this day. Imagine the scene: an isolated settlement on the edge of the known world. Dense forests pressing in, the Atlantic stretching endlessly behind. Every supply, every hope, dependent on ships that may never return. For those settlers, survival meant more than just finding food and shelter. It meant navigating uncertain alliances, harsh winters, and the unyielding wilderness. And when help finally came, it was already too late. You're listening to the Nightshift Chronicles, where we bring history's coldest cases to life under the cover of darkness. Whether you're working through the late hours or simply drawn to the mysteries of the past, this is your place for deep dives into the moments that shaped our world and the questions that remain unanswered. Tonight, we turn our attention to the coast of what is now North Carolina, where the English crown dreamed of a thriving colony and instead found only silence. The story begins in the late 16th century, during the reign of Queen Elizabeth I. England, eager to expand its influence, sought to challenge Spain's dominance in the New World. Leading this effort was Sir Walter Raleigh, a courtier, explorer, and visionary. In 1584, Raleigh received a royal charter to establish an English colony in North America. Success would bring wealth and strategic advantage. Failure could mean ruin. The first two attempts at settlement, in 1585 and 1586, met with hardship and hostility. Food was scarce, relations with local tribes were tense, and the settlers, unfamiliar with the land, found themselves struggling against both nature and uncertainty. Still, Raleigh pressed on. In 1587, he organized a third expedition, this time led by John White, an artist and experienced navigator. This group was different. It included women and children, signaling the intent to build a permanent community. They set sail from England in May, aboard 3 ships. The voyage was long, the seas unpredictable, but by midsummer, they reached the outer banks of present-day North Carolina. Here, on Roanoke Island, they began to build their new life. Timber houses rose from the sandy soil, gardens were planted, the air carried the scent of salt and the promise of a fresh start. But beneath this hope, trouble was already brewing. The colony's supplies were low, relations with neighboring tribes remained fragile, and the looming shadow of Spain's power made the settlement a potential target. For a time, life in the Roanoke settlement followed a fragile rhythm. The settlers built homes, repaired tools, and began exploring the island's interior. Every day was a race to prepare for the coming winter, but challenges were constant. The soil was sandy and poor for farming. Hunting was difficult and fishing unpredictable. Many relied on trade with local tribes for food and supplies. Relations with the indigenous peoples were complicated. The CROATOAN tribe, led by Chief Mateo, offered friendship and assistance, but other groups, such as the Secatan, were wary, even hostile, toward the newcomers. Misunderstandings and past conflicts had left deep scars. In August of that year, a historic event took place: the birth of Virginia Dare, the first English child born in the Americas. Her arrival was celebrated as a sign of hope for the colony's future, but survival was still uncertain. By late summer, their stores were dwindling. The settlers knew they needed more supplies from England, and only one person could make the dangerous voyage back: Governor John White himself. White reluctantly agreed. Leaving behind his daughter, son-in-law, and infant granddaughter, he boarded a ship for the long journey home. The plan was simple: return with food, tools, and more settlers within the year. But fate had other plans. John White's return to England in late 1587 should have been the first step towards saving the colony. But almost immediately, events spiraled out of his control. England was at war with Spain. The threat of the Spanish Armada loomed large, and every available ship was commandeered for defense.
Prepare to set sail! The tide is turning!
White pleaded for passage back to Roanoke.
Consider the lives at stake. Roanoke needs supplies, or all is lost.
But was repeatedly delayed. Weeks became months. Months became years. For over 2 long years, White was trapped in England, unable to return to the people who depended on him. Finally, in 1590, the war's immediate threat had passed. White secured passage aboard a private expedition and set sail once more for the New World. But time had taken its toll. The journey was slow. Storms battered the ship. Supplies ran low. When White and his crew finally reached the Outer Banks in August, they were exhausted, but driven by the hope of reuniting with family and friends. On the night of August 15, 1590, they anchored offshore and saw a faint signal, a column of smoke rising from Roanoke Island. It was the first sign of life in over 3 years, but as dawn broke, the truth would reveal itself. At first light, John White and a small landing party made their way to shore. The familiar path toward the settlement was overgrown, silent, unsettling. When they reached the site of the fort, the scene stopped them cold. The houses were gone. The defensive palisade still stood, but it was weathered and worn. And most haunting of all, there was no sign of a struggle. On one of the wooden posts, White saw a word carved in clear letters: kroh-uh-TOH-uhn. It was the name of a nearby island, home to the Croatan people. A second clue appeared on a tree: the letters CRO, the agreed-upon signal for distress. The carved Maltese cross was nowhere to be found. To White, this suggested the settlers had left willingly, perhaps to join the Croatan. His heart raced at the possibility. His family might still be alive. But the weather was turning. A fierce storm threatened to smash their ships against the shoals. Against White's desperate wishes, the captain ordered them to leave before they could search further. It was a decision from which the truth might never recover. For more than 4 centuries, the fate of the Lost Colony has fueled theories, debates, and countless investigations. The first and most obvious theory: the settlers relocated to Croatoan Island, today known as Hatteras Island, and assimilated with the friendly Croatan tribe. Supporters of this theory point to early reports of Native American groups with European features, light hair, gray eyes, and English words woven into their language. Another possibility is far darker. Some historians believe the settlers may have faced hostility from less friendly tribes, leading to conflict, dispersal, or death. Yet, the lack of weapons or skeletal remains leaves this theory unresolved. Others suggest famine and disease forced the settlers to split up, seeking survival wherever they could find it. In this scenario, small groups may have traveled inland, vanishing into the forest of what is now North Carolina. There's also the possibility of Spanish involvement. At the time, Spain controlled Florida and considered the English presence a threat. A covert raid to eliminate the colony is not beyond imagination. The story of Roanoke is more than just a colonial footnote. It's a reminder of how fragile human ambition can be when tested by nature, politics, and the unknown. Somewhere out there, perhaps buried beneath shifting sands or hidden in old tribal stories, the truth still waits. Until it is found, the Lost Colony will remain one of history's greatest unsolved mysteries. And that is why we keep looking. Every discovery, every clue brings us one step closer, even after more than 400 years. This has been the Nightshift Chronicles. We bring you history's mysteries, stories, and forgotten truths to keep your night alive. If you enjoyed tonight's journey, tap subscribe, ring the bell, and join us for more Nightshift history. We're just getting started. Until next time, keep the light burning and keep watch in the dark.